I'm going to show you guys today how to change the parameters on your H501S, SS, or A using the H501 firmware mod tool. Now, this is not my tool. I didn't make this tool. I didn't design this tool. I'm just going to show you how to use it. Now, you need to download the tool, and you're also going to need a set of drivers. The drivers used for this tool are the same drivers that you would use to update firmware. So if you got the drivers and you got the tool, then you got everything you need. You just need a USB cable and your H501. First thing you want to do is you want to open the tool. When you open the tool, this is the latest version down here. Got version 1.1.41. There's multiple tabs up here. I'm only going to go over the EEPROM tab. Most of the stuff that you're going to want to change is probably on this tab, and it's easiest, it's the fastest. You don't have to have any firmware files downloaded onto your computer or anything like that. All you need is a USB cable, this tool, a set of drivers, and your H501. You're ready to go. Before I get into that, quick disclaimer: you're doing this at your own risk. I'm not responsible for any damages, if anything goes wrong, if you lose your bird or anything like that, but I've done it. There's a lot of other people that have done it, and there's no issues. So with that said, let's get into it. First thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to plug the USB into the back of the bird. Once it's plugged into the back of the bird, and you got the tool open like this, you can go ahead and plug the USB in. If you have the drivers installed correctly, you'll hear the USB tone. And then this box right here will go from disconnected to connected, like it is right like this. Now, once it says disconnected and it now says connected, you can go ahead and click restart. It's going to restart and say connected again. Now, if you don't ever get connected with the USB cable, try changing your USB cable to a different one. Make sure that you have the drivers installed. Try a different USB port. But when you plug in the USB cable into your PC, it should pop up connected like that. And then, like I said, once you hit restart, it's going to disconnect, and then it should say connected again. Then once it says that, then you're going to go ahead and click on Get Parameters. I'll see it didn't work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Restart. Get Parameters, and there we go. We have the parameters. Now, if you keep clicking Restart and not getting the parameters, there's actually a text document here, and it tells you that some people may be required to hook the battery up. These are mostly on the newest ones that have come out from what I've heard. So like it says here, the A and the SS. My A doesn't need to do this, so I didn't have that issue. But try clicking restart and then connect it, restart and then make sure it says connected and then click Get Parameters again. Now, these are your parameters that you can change. 6.8, 6.4, 6.8. This is when the aircraft's going to actually start to descend. The lights have already started changing and flashing on the back of it, and it'll start to lose altitude. This 6.4, anything below this 6.4, actually 6.4 and below, the motors are going to stop. It's gonna come out of the air. If you change this, like if you a long distance flyer, I recommend that you would change this to 6 volts. So maybe on them really long distance hauls and you're coming back into the wind, you'll have that little extra to get you home. Be honest, I'd rather replace a battery than have a forced landing 250 meters out, 300 meters out. So so it's 6.4. I'm gonna leave it at 6.4 for mine. If you wanted 6 volts, you could have it 6.0. You just basically punch in whatever you want. I mean, you can make it 0 and it'll stay running until it has nothing left. this is going to be the max nav speed. This is what speed, how many meters per second it's going to fly back when it's in return to home. So stock's 5. If you wanted 7, you could do 7. I wouldn't go much higher than 7, but like I said, 5 is stock. I wouldn't go higher than 7. So we're going to leave it at 5. This is your RTH height. Now, 10 meters. So if the aircraft is at 15 meters and you hit the RTH switch, it's not going to go any higher than that. It's going to stay at 15 meters and it's going to come back. It actually might descend a little bit. You might come back at like 13 meters. If it's at 5 meters and you flip the RTH switch, it's going to go up to 10 meters like it says here. So if you had 20 there and it was at 5 meters, it's going to go to 20 meters. So that's your height. That's what it's going to go up to. So if it's already above that, it's not going to go any higher. If it's below that, it's going to go to whatever you type there. So if you put 100 in there, it's going to go to 100 meters in height when you hit the RTH switch. We'll set it at 20. Stock's 10. This is going to be your radius limit. So if you wanted to put a geofence on your aircraft, in other words, you do not want your aircraft to go further than 50 meters away from its home point. That's as far as it'll go. It won't go no further. You can push the forward stick as much as you want, and it won't go any further than that. We're going to leave that at 0 because nobody likes to be, fenced in. The next one's altitude limit. Now this one is stock at 250 meters, which is plenty for most people. But if you want to go higher than 250 meters, you just take the 250 out, you punch in a 0, and you have no altitude restriction. It'll go as high as you can take it. Now, once you have all your parameters set the way you want, what you want it to be, how you want to change them, you come down here and you click flash. When you click flash, it's going to flash the bird. Once it's flashed the bird, if you want to check to make sure it's still on there, click on restart. Once it's connected, click on get parameters. And there we go. We have our changed altitude limit to 0. We have our changed RTH height to 20 meters from 10. And then, like I said, you have your max navigational speed. This is RTH speed. This is not going to be your GPS speed. This is the speed that it's going to travel in return to home mode only. Your landing voltage, or like this is basically your low voltage cutoff. This is when the motor's going to stop. This is when it's going to start to come down and your lights are going to turn red. So 6.8 volts, that's when you're going to start losing altitude, and the LEDs are going to start flashing on the bird. And that's pretty much it. I'll go over the TX and flight controller tabs in another video, but that's what it is. One thing I do want to mention, I actually did a firmware update after I used this tool. So I had a firmware on there. I used the tool and changed parameters, and then I did another firmware update, but I didn't reuse the tool, and the parameters remained. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that like when you do this, it should stay in there. Just if you change the firmware on it, you should really check to make sure that these parameters are still what they are, or if they haven't changed. And if they haven't changed, great. If they change, then you can change them back to whatever you had. So that's how you use the tool. I hope this helps. I see a lot of questions on it, but that's what I know at this point. Like I said, I'll go over these other 2 tabs in another video. So keep an eye out for that. This is Quads and Mods. I'm out. Get you some.